Fantastic. I'm recording. Hello, Dave. It's good to see you.
Hello, sir. Now let's get your name straight because I don't know if it's Rafi, Rafi. What do we call you?
It's Rafi. And actually, I used to explain to people when I was running for student government in middle school, it's Rafi is in taffy, not Rafi is in toffee.
Okay, great. That makes it really uncomplicated. What a great way to overcomplicate the names more.
Exactly.
So, okay.
And do you go by
Rafi, great to
Dave
see you.
or Dov?
I go by Dave, David, or anything people want to call me. I'm not one of those name people. You can call me Mike, Jim. I really don't care.
Well, it's so nice to be on with you. Jake and I have both been watching your videos, and your channel started around the same time as ours. It's been doing really well. I think your videos are super interesting, and I learn a lot. And so I'm hoping that today we can dig beneath the surface and get to know you a little bit better and hear more of your opinions on Pokemon and the hobby.
That sounds good. That sounds good. Thank you for watching, by the way. I'm always appreciative.
Absolutely. And so I guess that leads to my first question, which is, you are one of the top collectors in the world. Nobody knows exactly what you have, but based on what we gather, and you've sort of stayed out of the limelight until now. What made you interested in jumping into the limelight, creating videos and sharing more and showing your cards to other people?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've lived a life that lets my mind dictate what I do. So I don't try to overpower my mind. I actually let my mind tell me what to do, and I let it come to its own conclusions. And however that happens, I don't always know what the process is in there. That's kind of the candor I've been. I'm a very reclusive guy by nature. I'm not out in front and center, even at all the world's events I've been to try to acquire the cards. I've always been kind of behind the scenes, not wanting to be very visible. Had a lot of the players and some of my good friends helping me. So I don't know exactly what was the trigger point in all this. It's maybe been something underneath the surface for a long time. A lot of people have asked me stuff about the collection. What do you have? Can we see it? It's just repetitive comment. Can we please see it? Can we please see more? And I guess maybe at some point it sort of boiled up to the surface, and then I start watching Google. I always think, no matter, even though the fact I'm, a granddad now and more near dead than alive, I still think that you can learn and be successful. So I went to YouTube and started looking up, how do you do this thing? And the guy said, get on and do a darn video. And so I did.
Nice. And so going to your comment about showing your collection, I guess my first reaction or thought when you show it, and some of the amazing stuff that you have, the same reaction I have to most people, which is, how do you afford that, right? Like, over time, how do you make collecting into a hobby and not like a bank account draining, lifetime goal that leaves you impoverished?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question as well. I've, over the course of my lifetime, I got in this as my first one or two videos showed, by being very fortunate to have jumping on an opportunity. I bought a couple of sets, didn't really know why I bought them, and then eventually ended up buying a couple of collections. And the collections really gave me some things that were very unique, and I found out very shortly that they were, and that sort of got me motivated. And then for some reason, I do not know why, we started, my wife and I, attending the world's events, had great success picking up those cards, which meant over time, I felt an obligation. I've always felt an obligation under the surface, and I think you hear that theme in my videos. It's an insecurity that I have to do this right. People expect David Person to have the collection. And I've thought of doing museums. I've thought of doing exhibits. I've thought of doing, ways that people can come in and pay money. And it's all for charity, because I have an autistic son. And so that's, something that's important to me. And so from that, I have continued to push myself to own things regardless of the cost. It's caused a little bit of consternation inside the Person household. So we deal with that as we do. But about 9 months ago, I decided that it's time to sell some stuff. And so I began an endeavor to find all of my extras and start putting it out on eBay to try to finally make back some of the money I'd spent over all the years. And that was my impetus to get going. And people are like, are you selling the collection? Are you selling? No, I'm not selling the collection. These are extra cards from Worlds and extra boxes and packs I got 20 years ago when I took the cards out from my collection and put the packs aside and that kind of thing. So I am fortunate to have a good job. There's no question about it. I am a financial advisor in real life. I've done that for over 20 years. So that definitely helps. So I know how to save money as well. It's been something that I'm trained to do. But I do overspend. Raffy, as in taffy. And so there's no question about it. You got me. I overspend. Thank you. Now I'm going to say one more thing, and I know I talk a lot. They told me about you. You're like Barbara Walters in the old days. You're going to make me cry at some point. So I'm not buying it, buddy. Okay. I just want you to know there's a couple of tears in here, but I'm going to try to hold them back.
Nice, nice. That was a good answer. And I guess I'm curious if you are as OCD as I am about tracking things, right? I personally, maybe I take it to an extreme, but I track every single purchase I make, when I made it, how much I spent, and then every single sale I make. And I can always look back and see, did I make a profit on that card, or sort of how am I doing overall in terms of my spending? Do you do something like that?
Rafi, they told me about you. No one is as OCD as you. Okay. So let's just put that right out. Number one. Okay. Number two is no, I'm not. I wish I had been eBay, PayPal, and the IRS. Wish I'd been more OCD about my cost basis on stuff that I'm selling now. But the reality is, no, I go through periods of life when certain things become more front and center. It's almost a rotational basis. I'm focusing on one thing and something else loses focus. So if it's my job in a tough time, or it's my children at a certain time, or it's, whatever it is at that time that I have to deal with, something ends up going to the back burner. And so because of that, there are periods of time when I don't track anything. I don't handle the collection. And the pandemic let me jump back in heavy. And by the way, I guess in a roundabout way, that's one of the main reasons why I did the channel. Now that I think about it, was because I finally got a handle on the collection again. I finally started tracking in a book everything I was buying, everything to finish up all the holes I had, to try to feel like I didn't want to be a fraud. Okay, here's number one English collector, but he's got nothing. We know some people in the world today that maybe misrepresent. So no, I didn't want to be unreal. I wanted to be truthful. So I needed to fill some holes, went to work on doing that fairly quickly, overspent as usual, picked up a bunch of stuff and filled in a bunch of holes. And now I'm getting to a point where I want to announce to the channel soon, like, okay, I need 50 cards left from every set, from every variant, from every trophy, from every, promo. I want to give a number that people can understand, wow, like he really does have all of that stuff.
Yeah.
That's kind of the next goal.
That's amazing. One thing that struck me also from your videos is talking about, you have lots of kids and now grandkids. Is this a hobby you share with them? Or do you find that, at least this is how I see it, it's a little bit different, right? Collecting as an adult versus just appreciating the cards as a kid.
Yeah, I mean, and I started appreciating the cards as a kid in the baseball card world, back in when I was 12, 13 years old. So I really did. I was that reclusive kid that liked to sit with the binder and put everything together and order the cards and sleeve them when they came in. So that was how I built my whole interest. My kids and I have a mutual relationship. I don't respect them and they don't respect me. So, we're just doing the best we can to peacefully coexist. I think they find most of my behavior freakish, and I find most of their stuff, I don't know they're just on social media 24/7. They have no attention span to actually look at a binder and see what's inside it. And it's not talking back to them or doing some dance that's the trend of the world. So, yeah.
Nice.
So I don't. I wish they did.
So I want to eventually move into hearing some of your perceptions of the market for Pokemon as an investment vehicle. But before we do that, I guess, could you give me some highlights and lowlights? Like, what is one of the worst deals that you think you've ever made that you regret, and one of the best deals that you're still happy about?
Yeah, so thank you, because these are really tough questions that take hours to think about, but I've got 1.5 minutes. So I appreciate that, Rafi.
Exactly.
And number two is
making you think on your feet forces you to be honest.
Well, that's true, because everybody knows I'm certainly not an honest guy. Thank you for figuring out that he doesn't seem honest. Let me force him to be honest. You're doing a great job. And by the way, I've noticed you've never actually looked directly at me. So am I that ugly, buddy? Because I know I am, but there's a way you're portraying it. Okay. So let's see. My worst deal. The worst deals that I would have ever done in the hobby, for sure, if you want to talk about it from a deal perspective, are going to be buying Worlds cards. Okay, it's just the general nature of the hobby. So whether or not it would be either the first couple deals I made in the early 2005, 2006 timeframe, when, you know, I might have bought finalist card for $7,000 or $8,000 because I didn't know there was the champion, I mean, the trophy cards above it. But there's times at Worlds when I've overpaid just because I was this obligation, you know. So you're going to have 2, 3, and 4, and you're not going to walk away with the number 1. You'll never see the number 1 again. The collection will have a major hole, and you'll not be able to represent what you should be in this collection to the world. So those have been the ones when I've definitely overpaid several thousand or something. I don't make very many bad deals. After the first couple of years, I say it's okay to fail. It's great to fail in life as long as you fail fast, you learn from it, and you don't repeat the mistake again. So I don't repeat mistakes more than once. And so those would be my deals of, you know, again, I don't look really as them as failures, but they definitely overpaid from that standpoint.
Right. Was there ever any transaction you had that was like massive, right? Either you sold a huge amount of cards, you bought a huge amount of cards at one time?
That would be those would be the collections I bought in the beginning. So I've bought 3 large collections over the course of time, but they were all purchased 2006 and before. So that's where I have the multiple sets of all of those early series. I bought, you know, booster and blister packs that I haven't even put out there yet because I don't collect them. I know folks are going to go crazy for those because they're full art cover sets of all of the early stuff and boosters and blisters. I bought all of the promo cards that had the very rare stuff. So that had the there's 4 cards that have never been mentioned. So I'm not going to I can't do that with you here. But anyways, there's 4 cards that are coming soon that are, you know, I'm only aware of one other person in the world that has them now, and they've only figured out that they existed the last couple of months and were able to, I guess, put a set together. And then the Tropical Mega Battle series was in there. So again, from the late 98, 99, again, there's probably just a handful. I've never seen one for sale. So the very rare stuff was out there, was in those collections. And that's why I say really got me motivated to go forward.
How much was one of those collections as an example?
Yeah. As far as a price, probably back then I think I paid $7,000.
You just cut out for 1 second. We're back. So you said that one of those collections was $7,000?
Yeah. So when you think about it in these days, you know, pretty amazing. I mean, that collection, it's probably I don't know the numbers. I don't think about them, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was, you know, $100,000, $150,000 now, pretty easily, maybe more.
When you say you don't think about the numbers, like, it doesn't bring you more satisfaction to know that your collection is more valuable?
No, I don't. Interestingly, I'm not a numbers guy. So even though I do financial advising for a living, I don't worry about what I make. I don't worry about the production it generates. I let my team handle that. I just always believe you do the work and you reap the rewards. You keep your head down. So no, I'm not enough. I don't sit there and calculate what is my collection worth or, you know, what's the set's worth and how much, you know. I have general estimates of just in general, because if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I don't want my wife to go and sell it for $23. So I can give her some feeling about that, but that's it. I do not go into the calculations at all. No. And then there's big numbers. You know, I got very fortunate 6 to 9 months ago. I went out and bought a bunch of booster boxes from a large seller in the country. I think I paid $101,000 for a set of booster boxes. Excuse me, and got very fortunate just timing wise, kind of right before everything doubled and tripled up. So there's some big transactions I've made because I believe from an investment standpoint, the boxes are still the best way to go. So I did pick those up, but those were more for kind of investment. They were not for my collection. Mm-hmm. Although I will say, because I always talk and say a lot, and that's the reason you have me on, because you don't have to say anything. I'll just try to make you look good. Just kidding, Rafi. I do have one of every box in the collection. That is a part of what I collect. I collect one of every sealed box all the way through, so long as the sealed box has different cards than any other sealed box. So if something is a different color than something else, the cards are the same. That's not of interest. But if the cards are different inside, then I do have.
Like first edition versus non-first edition, you have both?
Correct, yeah.
That makes sense. And so it's a good segue to the more financial questions. You said you're buying booster boxes as an investment. So do you think that Pokemon is a good investment for someone who's looking to the long term?
It sure seems that way right now. Yeah, definitely. You know, I've had a chance to evaluate the hobby from a myriad of different comparatives, and the most interesting ones have to do with living versus dead. So when I look at baseball cards, when I look at football cards, when I look at even collectibles like Lucy dolls, you know, that we have, or Curious George, I have Curious George collectibles in the house. So what I've found is that the idea of someone dying or being dead or finishing a career really hinders the value of that hobby over time. Didn't used to be the case. And someone not even being alive, stamps and coins can even be more, you know, those hobbies have kind of dwindled away as well because of it. So the difference with Pokemon is and I'll give you an example, we'll do Lucy versus Betty Boop. Lucy was hugely popular and has faded away. Rafi, you don't even know who she is, but it was a show called I Love Lucy. And then now there's Betty Boop, who was a character in the 60s and 50s as well, still continues a fictional character on the shelves of Hallmark stores, cartoon character, those are still selling. Same thing with Pokemon now. What you have is, you know, Pikachu's, the career is not going to end. I don't know if Pikachu is boy or girl. You can't say that. So gender neutral Pikachu these days, which is most important to say because I care less, is not going anywhere. You know, when he's not on steroids, and although he's looking pretty buff these days. So I think, yes, I think there's a tremendous continuum there. I think you can see the movies being put out. You can see the different segments of the hobby when Pokemon Go and Pokemon, you know, the video game. All of this is contributing to Pokemon and Nintendo's effort to keep the hobby really doing well. And it seems to be attracting a lot of new people. There's not a lot of other places to go these days. You know, you're either going to Fortnite or the very intense kind of gaming type situations, or you're sort of off here in this hobby. And especially with not as many toys coming out, the toy stores have kind of finished up and, you know, could change. Yeah, I think it's a great investment.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I want to posit something, and this is something I've mentioned on our channel before, and then I want to hear your rebuttal to it. So basically, what I'm going to posit is we're in a bubble right now, and not just a Pokemon bubble, but a financial bubble too, right? We don't know what's going to happen with the pandemic, but creating lots of debt or inflation via the printing of currency and distributing low interest loans might lead to a collapse sometime in the future. And when that collapse happens, the first thing that's going to go is people's collectibles, right? They're going to say, I'm going to sell my collectibles so that I can have enough to feed my family, sort of in the worst case, or even the best case, to just keep up with the standard of living that I'm used to. And so you might see a scenario in which the economy tanks, people start fire selling collections that go for lower and lower prices. And eventually, you know, Pokemon may never go back to what it was at the very beginning, but certainly significantly less than it's worth now. Do you think that's right or wrong, and why?
Yeah, I mean, I think it certainly makes sense from a financial standpoint that those kinds of cycles you describe do happen, not only for the reasons you said, but also because of demographic trends, right? The aging of a population and maybe the new younger people coming in, all of that all plays a role. You know, I guess I would say that any long-term wealth creation tool, whether or not that's financial markets or Pokemon investing or real estate or whatever, they all go through down cycles. The key is, you know, do you have the holding power, the sustaining power to come through those cycles and hang on, because eventually and inevitably they recover. The only downside that I see is you are right. If you're going to differentiate, you know, you need, if you have a house or something, it goes down, or you have your stock assets, those companies typically are still going to be in business if they're big enough. Your house is still in business. You're still living in it. So it is, the only variable to all of this is whether or not Pokemon, Nintendo itself, is still in business. And I think because of their worldwide focus and because of all the different diversification of their business lines, I would think we've gone through some very slow periods. We've gone through 2004 and I guess before that, 2001 to 2003 or 4. So, you know, I don't worry about it at this point in time. And I also think that whenever things do devalue, you still have things that still hold value better than others. And I do think tremendously that the sealed boxes, the booster boxes, will hold their value more strongly than anything else.
And why is that?
Well, it's you know, someone said to me one time, if you have a PSA 10 Charizard, the only thing that can happen is there can be more PSA 10 Charizards. People go, they look, they find, they submit, they get another 10. With a booster box, there can't be more. They're continuously being opened. There's only going to be less. So, with the way that YouTube is, with, the box breaks and all the other things, with me believing strongly that a lot of the boxes are priced out of most people's price ranges now, the next inevitable step they'll take to collecting is going to be one of every cover art. So they're going to want to own the pack arts, and they won't be able to buy the box. And that means the boxes have to be broken to sell the pack arts. So that's my reasoning behind that.
That's really interesting. The theory does make sense to me. I guess the only place where I'd want to ask more is, do you think it's a case that we're never going to discover more booster boxes? Like, what if someone walks into a warehouse of some game store that went out of business in 1999 is like, oh my gosh, we're just sitting on 200 base set booster boxes, that totally upends the market.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's like saying, what if the whole world comes to an end tomorrow? We should all own gold, right? So, there's always a statistical probability, likelihood, potential 1%, 1/10 of 1% that there's a warehouse out there. But it isn't the case. I mean, the reason it's not going to be the case is because people know where their assets are. Nobody bought quantities anyways. If there was quantities bought, people would know about them. That's the reason that boxes already are holding, value more than they should. And people need money. You don't go 20 years and not take things and sell them. There's a handful of people that don't, but they're also smart enough not to put them all out there at once. So somebody could have a case of something, but I don't think there's tremendous amounts of anything out there because even the largest players don't have tremendous amounts of anything.
That makes sense. So taking a step back to your love and passion for the hobby and collecting, what is your all-time favorite set, and what is your all-time favorite card?
Yeah, so I am the one person not to ask that to, okay? So you can just take those two questions and just pass them out, and we'll move on to the next thing. I have not spent enough time. So my time has been spent in accumulating, not enjoying. I've always joked that there's going to be a day, I'll be talking about this soon on one of my videos, with the great plantar fasciitis I have. I can't stand on my feet anymore. There's going to be a day when I'm wheelchair bound, and that's all I'm going to do is have the cards in front of me as the pleasure I get in my old age, determining exactly what set I love the most and what is my favorite card. Right now, I don't know one set from another, and I don't even know. I do know who Pikachu is. I like Charizard, but point me in a specific direction, can't help you, and I'm sorry for that.
So what is it that gives you the enjoyment if it's not yet looking at the cards themselves? Is it the feeling of like satisfying the collection and fulfilling that promise that you made?
Yes. Very simple answer, yes. A lot of people say, is it fun? And I have to tell you, it's an unfortunate answer. It's not yet fun. I wish it were. It's an obligation. So I have an obligation in my heart to the world, to all of you, to continue to do this thing. And that's what it is. And it's work. I mean, it's continuous searching. It's continuous, negotiating. It's continuous, thousands of dollars to travel to Worlds every year. I'm jealous of everyone there. I'm jealous of everyone at Worlds because they're playing and they're enjoying and they're trading. And, luckily I take my wife and we see the venue, whatever is there, and the sites and the tourist things around it. But it's not fun because it's work to try to make all this stuff happen. So I love the satisfaction. There's no question. I love getting a new card. I mean, I find a blister pack that's got the one variant I need and I haven't seen it for 6 months and it's incredible. A DVD card inside, where did it come from? Or a friend helped me get it, incredible. Those kind of things are my satisfaction. Filling a hole, getting closer to the end result. And now, and I want to say, the videos aren't fun. I hate to tell you, I'm going to sound, God, he's so down. No, there's so much work because I try to put so much into them right now. So I'm trying to figure out how to make the process more fun. Don't worry so much that you're not doing a good job for other people and not showing them. Just try to be yourself and do more of that. And I'm trying, but it's hard. So.
Yeah, I can totally understand. I mean, for me, what I find fun is that there's so many different parts of the process of buying and selling that give you that sort of like dopamine rush of excitement, right? Like when you win an auction, that's exciting. When that card finally arrives in the mail and you open it, that's exciting. If you get a return back from PSA, which I know you don't do, that's exciting. If you make a sale, right, and every day of the week that your auction is going and see, oh, people are bidding higher, this is exciting. There's so many moments where you can sort of get that thrill.
That is 100% true. That is the dopamine rush is 100% true. And it's no different than, when you're a salesperson in life and you ask for the order and you get the order. There's no greater rush than, my goodness, I got a new client, I got a new card, whatever it is. So yeah, that I live for that every day.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot. You pick up a really nice card one time, that'll take you through a couple of years. So.
Absolutely. And I know you have very specific collecting goals, but are there any cards where you're just like, I want to own lots of them. I just love it so much. It'd be cool to have like a binder full of copies or something like that.
I get jealous of other people. I am a human and I have those emotions. So, I see, King Gary's, Charizards and I think about it for a split second. And I think about, the other day I saw Rusty post something about the Happy Birthday Pikachus. And I'm looking at this background picture of hundreds of them. And I know how much they've gone up and how many I've sold. And boy, that would have been nice. But I quickly put it aside. It's too costly. In other words, I've got enough expense endeavored in buying every set, in buying every box, in buying every theme deck, in buying every variant, and going back and filling collections and trying to buy every trophy card, every finalist card. It's a continuing expense that's very costly. So yeah, I have to put that aside.
That makes sense. So I have a question we like to ask everyone, which is, what is one Pokemon card or set or box that you think right now is undervalued, and what is one that you think is overvalued?
I mean, I would certainly think that I don't know that I could pick one. This goes to kind of that same situation you asked me before of really following it to a T. I do think the early, WotC type boxes are overvalued right now for their contents. They're, there's just not, it's the nostalgia piece and people want them and they want them in their collections. But for opening purposes, they're not going to bring from packs what you're going to have to pay, for the box. So the harder part of that is the EX series box, which no one really knows that supply piece. Everybody knows they were underproduced. They've escalated rapidly. And because you don't know how far people can go up in their expense rate, how much will people pay for a pack? We know there's a handful of people that'll pay $500 or whatever, but then there's other people that won't pay more than $100 or $200. Are they eventually going to get to the $500 range that makes those boxes worthwhile, despite how rare they are? So boxes are a little bit of a crapshoot right now. The single cards, Rafi, I don't follow the single cards very much, as you can imagine, because I don't grade. And I don't, really worry about that piece. I worry to make sure everything in the collection is near mint to mint or better. I don't say, well, gosh, that card, if I had to move up $10,000 to buy a 9 to a 10, that's too much in price or whatever. So unfortunately, that's not my wheelhouse to give you an answer.
Yeah, no problem. That's super interesting. I know Jake and I sort of share a theory that like there is no real price ceiling on certain cards, because you think the people who are getting into the hobby now start with the same things that maybe you or I were interested in at the beginning. And then as you get more OCD about it, you think, well, I want that other higher value item. And gradually the maximum you're willing to spend on any given thing gets higher and higher. And so the things that are popular today, or the things that are less popular and less well-known today, right? In Jake's case, the cards that were printed pre-WotC, the Japanese ones, or it could be for you trophy cards, right? Will be the next thing to be popular as those newer collectors get sort of more refined and luxurious in their taste.
I think you're right. And it's not only newer collectors that are brand new as far as like youngsters, it's also people that have money, and that's really the other thing is, we've seen some infusion of a lot of people that have a lot of money. And I never think about that until I really go back to my own profession and think about how many people have millions of dollars and are bored with something and looking for the next thing, or they're having children, they develop an interest and they're out to buy them for their kids. We've seen that there's been some huge players that have come in recently that I won't mention names, but have been mentioned on other people's videos by name, who have come out even to me and bought some things at extraordinary prices. And those prices now, with those things disappearing, for example, ADEX, like Trainer ADEX, the next one I put out there won't be 10,000. It'll probably be $20,000, because now I'm down to one or two, and there's, other than the people that have tucked one away, they're just not out there anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are like 3 minutes away from the end of our time that Zoom gives us. Is there any last thing you think our viewers, who are mostly, people interested both in collecting for fun and enjoy Pokemon and as an investment, anything you think they should know?
I mean, I guess I've said this in some of the videos before, and I'm going to pitch my own channel real quick, because hopefully it's not biased. You go to YouTube and you look for David Persin, David Persin.
And we will link to it too, don't worry.
Okay, perfect, great. So because I'm trying to help people with all of the lessons that I've learned, and be smart, plan your purchases, don't follow others, try not to watch what everyone else is doing and compare to those things, because those people may have different resources or different collecting goals than you have. Most importantly is, if you like the quantity of cards you can pick up and the condition isn't so important, then that's great to like. If you like really great condition, that's one thing. If you like a certain character that resonates with you, focus there. There's so many great ways you can do it. And also, don't be afraid to change. If you've done something for 6 months or a year and it's not continuing to resonate with you, or you see something that someone else is doing, but that actually catapults you into something that's more important to you, let your mind take you on that journey. Don't box yourself in. And then finally, ask the experts. Ask folks like me, because I'm willing to help anybody. I enjoy that part. That I do enjoy very much. The chance to sort of make friends and help people with whatever advice and wisdom I can offer. And what a great way to cut me off and use Zoom as the culprit. I love that. That's so good.
Exactly. Part of the reason we haven't upgraded our license, it's a good tactic.
Yes, nice. Good job, Rafi.
Absolutely. But I totally agree. And I think, Jake has mentioned this before, it's not a zero-sum game, right? The more people who are in the hobby and the more people who make smart choices and have a good experience, the better it'll be for everyone.
Yes, 100%. And I appreciate what you guys are doing with your channel as well. I think it's fantastic, because hopefully it gives people more resources and more perspective. They can kind of internalize and come up with the best decisions for themselves. So yeah.
Absolutely. And likewise, I love your channel. I love your authenticity. I love your humor. And so I will still be a subscriber and an avid viewer of yours. And thank you so much for taking the time today.
Okay, buddy. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. You take care. Much success with your channel as well.
Thank you.